Nvidia and Asus contacted me, setting me a challenge that I did not think would be possible. Build a custom Overwatch 2 PC. The catch is, I only have just over 1 week to finish. Will we do it? Honestly, I'm not too sure. But if we do, I would love to earn your subscription today. I will give it my all. This is the Asus Prime 201 case. Now, it is a small, compact design to fit micro ATX or mini ITX. Let's get this unboxed. Now, I'm glad that the design of this case is very minimalistic because it gives us a blank canvas to work on for our Overwatch theme. It does not have a front case panel, but we're going to be doing something extra special with this build in order to create a new front case panel so that we can see the parts on the inside. I think that's really going to bring to life this Overwatch theme, especially once we try and incorporate Reinhardt's shield onto the front. So we've completely stripped the case. I removed the side panel, we removed all of the cables coming in, and we have found our first issue. So the graphics card, it's pretty much in line with its brackets where it would slot in. And as you can see here, the power supply cover right there is completely blocking off the GPU. The GPU is too long for this position. The only thing that could make it work is an M-ATX motherboard where it's got more than 2 PCIe slots, because it would slot in below and then the graphics card can fit underneath the power supply shroud like it is right now. But because we're using a ITX motherboard, the PCIe slot is actually up here, and so it will run into the edge of this power supply shroud right there. So to combat that, we're going to remove the power supply shroud, and then we are going to put it in the bottom pedestal, which is Reinhardt's hammer. Well, at least half of his hammer. So let's get into it. Wait a minute. Can we make this work? There's actually 3 different tiers or levels that we can put this power supply shroud in. So if I put it up to the top, then we get our graphics card. Hold that in place. I think we could just make it work. Some of the power supply cables might get in the way, but we might be able to keep the power supply inside the build. Good on you, Asus. This is a really nice case. I'm glad they have this level of customization inside of it. So we can mount it down that low, or we can bring it up to the middle section, or all the way up the top. And all the way up the top is going to save us a lot of headache, apart from the fact that if you have a 360mm radiator, it's going to severely block a lot of that space. However, I believe that Asus has sent us a 240mm radiator, so that means that it's only going to take up this amount of space and it's not going to impact the power supply section at all. So I think we're going to be okay. Finally, we are getting to do an ITX build with the ROG Strix Z790i gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. It's got Wi-Fi 6E compatibility. It's got plenty of USB Type-C. I'm not even kidding. And of course, we've also got the big heatsink for our NVMe drives on here, DDR5 compatibility as well. This is the Intel Core i5 13600K CPU with a total of 14 cores, 20 threads, and a max turbo boost of 5.1 gigahertz. This CPU is such a good gaming CPU, and it uses less power than majority of the rest of the lineup of 13th gen CPUs, so you're actually going to be saving on your electricity bill as well. And this is plenty enough for games. So guys, I highly consider recommending this. So guys, I highly consider checking this CPU out if you have the Intel platform and you're looking for a new CPU. So to install our CPU into our motherboard, we need to release the lever right here to bring up the protective capping, which is protecting the socket. Now at this point, the important thing to look out for is where the triangle is located on the CPU socket right there. And you need to pair that up with the triangle in the corner of your CPU, which is located in this corner here. So in this case, the CPU will be inserted into the socket like that. So once again, make sure we lift up the protective capping. We place the CPU in. It's only going to go in one way because there's little notches on each side of the CPU, and it's only going to go in one way. So do not force it. Then we can put the capping down. Make sure that the lever goes like this. The protective capping will come off and put the lever in place. Keep this. You're going to need it for warranty and returns. For our RAM, we're going with the Kingston Fury RAM. This is DDR5. It has built-in RGB. We have 16 gigabytes total, and it is CL36 timings. That's absolutely incredible for DDR5. Plus, it is 6,000 megahertz speed. So this is some really good RAM. I cannot wait to test this out in the system. To install RAM, so we have to release the notches at the end there. Sometimes there's notches on this side as well. Then we want to line up the small notch in the bottom of the RAM stick right here with the notch in the RAM slot right there. So we can go ahead, put one side in, line the other in, put it in, and just give it a push down until it clicks on both sides. Now you will sometimes have to put a bit of firmness down there. Don't worry about that. Obviously you don't go too overboard, but it's only gonna fit in one way, so you'll know pretty soon if you're putting it in the wrong way or not. So to install our motherboard, first things first, we need to either make sure the I/O is pre-installed on the motherboard itself, or we need to check our motherboard box and make sure that it is installed into the case. Now we could line it up like so by bringing it over to the I/O port and then lining up the screw holes. In some cases, there's usually one screw hole that can actually hold it in place while we screw the first screw in. Now that the first screw is in, I like to go to the opposite corner of the first one that we screwed in, just to make sure that the motherboard is in place. And now all the screw holes should be lining up perfectly to install the rest of the screws. For our NVMe storage, we're going to be going with the Kingston Fury Gen 4 NVMe drive. I absolutely love using NVMe drives now because it saves on more cable space when you can just plug it into the motherboard and it all works perfectly fine. This is 1 terabyte storage capacity as well. The next step, we're going to be installing our NVMe drive. So we have to remove the NVMe heatsink in order to gain access to install the drive. It's just 2 screws that come loose, and then we need to remove the protective film on both sides. Next step is to install the NVMe. You simply line up the notch with the notch in this bracket right here. Now this one actually goes in upside down and it's not held in place by any screws at all. As you can see, it does not line up with any of the standoffs. This one is actually held in place by the thermal pads and by the heatsink itself. So it will not move anywhere and it'll stay in contact with the thermal pads on both sides of the NVMe drive. You know, I thought it was going to be a tough choice choosing a graphics card for this build, but the decision was not tough at all. In fact, we have the Asus TUF RTX 4080 graphics card. This is the OC model, and it has 16 gigabytes of GDDR6X memory. I love the packaging of this. This is really cool. If I can open it. What do we have here? Oh, wow, I hope this graphics card fits in the case. it's such a nice looking card. So for the I/O, we have 2 HDMI and 3 display. It's such a clean, minimalistic design on the front here as well. It's primarily like a sort of gunmetal gray, I would say. And then of course we have the open metal backplate design to allow for all of the cool air to come through and keep the card nice and cool. In fact, the PCB is only up to here on the card, so you can imagine how small this card would be without the heatsink on there. Incredible. Okay, so next step's gonna be installing the GPU because I wanna see how much fan space we have left to play with. Now, I'm thinking that we're actually gonna have to go for a bit of a untraditional and weird fan setup because of the sheer size of everything in this build. Now, obviously the front has no intake position, so what is actually gonna be intaking air into here? Well, I don't wanna put fans down the bottom because they're pretty much, I don't even think they would fit, to be honest. There's not much room under the GPU. So the GPU is going to be bringing in its own fresh air. So we've got the side and the top. I'm actually thinking of bringing in fresh air from the side and exhausting out of the top. It gives it nice clean air as well as exhausting the motherboard air out as well. Now to cool our CPU, we have the ROG Ryu 3 240mm ARGB liquid CPU cooler with 2 RGB fans that it comes with. Thank you. And of course the 240mm radiator, which is pretty much all the space we have in our new case that we're going to be using. And of course, we have this fantastic design on the CPU block right here and pre-applied thermal paste as well. Oh, that's pretty cool. So on the radiator, they've actually got protective plastic. So during shipping and transportation, none of the radiator fins get damaged. Oh, there we go. So we've chosen to go with the Thermaltake TUF fans for this system. I did want to use the fans that were included. However, we only have 2 RGB fans included and the case fan itself was just pure black. And I want everything synchronized. So I've decided to just swap out every single fan and we've got this neutral sort of design with the black aesthetics on both the intake fan in the case and of course these exhaust fans on the radiator, which will be going up the top of the build. It's going to be quite an interesting setup in the build, having that one intake fan right at the back there. But as I said before, the case is a very open design. Every single panel is a mesh design, which allows free airflow in and out of the build. I mean, it's almost as if it's an open design. That's how much airflow is going through that case. Now, of course, the graphics card will be taking care of itself, bringing air in from the bottom. And then we've got the intake fan taking care of the motherboard, plus providing some fresh air for the radiator to exhaust. We are so lucky that we only have a 240mm radiator. There is no way a 360 would have fit. The fans are actually going down quite a bit as well. It would have interfered with the PSU shroud. And if we had a 360mm radiator, then the PSU shroud would not have worked because between the graphics card and the radiator, it would have caused some serious issues for us. Now, our second plan, if we did run into any issues, was going to be to actually completely remove the power supply shroud and actually put it down in the custom Reinhardt hammer pedestal that we're going to be making after this case is pretty much finished. I mean, all we have left is to install the CPU cooler on the CPU, and then it's time for customization. Guys, I really hope you're enjoying so far. If you are, please leave a comment down below. What part of this build has been your favorite so far? And if you were to do an Overwatch themed build, what character would you theme your PC towards? Also, while you're there, please go ahead and like the video for us. It really helps us out a bunch, more than you guys know. So we really appreciate your support, guys. All right, first step, we have to install the backplate for the CPU cooler. And if you notice, Asus actually has two cutouts there. That's actually for previous generation coolers and current generation. Good stuff, Asus. That means we can use our old coolers with this and save some money. So good on you, Asus. So the thumb screws I've installed. Remember, this already has pre-applied thermal paste on it as well, so we don't have to apply any to the CPU. So if we go ahead and get that in place, now that that is in place, we can go ahead and try our hardest to install one of these thumb screws in this tight spot. Might actually be, I just need to get one and then we should be good for the rest. Okay, there we go, there's one. So I got that biting the thread, and then we'll see if we can get the opposite corner. Oh, that's gonna be tough. Completely tight yet, because I don't want an uneven spread of that paste on the block. Okay, I got that one biting, so I should be able to hold it in place and then use a screwdriver for the bottom two. There we go. Now, if I tighten gradually at opposite corners, just like this, it should theoretically spread the paste more evenly on the CPU. So it'll have better cooling contact. You know, low key, this has to be one of my favorite SFX power supplies. Comment below if you see what I did there. All jokes aside, this actually is one of the best looking SFX power supplies that I really have ever worked with. It is 750 watts from Asus. I wonder if they're gonna end up bringing out more power supplies which sort of follow that Thor themed naming scheme. Because it's quite interesting, but I truly appreciate the design on these. And they're making some really nice power supplies. I believe that Seasonic is also the manufacturer of them as well, so you know they're very reliable. It is also ATX 3.0 compatible, so I can't wait to try this little thing out. So because the power supply is right out of the way in this build in the top left corner, probably top right to you guys on screen. I really want to get this installed now. I'm having a bit of difficulty here. I know what I should be doing, but I know what I want to do as well. Okay. So the fan and this side of the power supply, I feel like is the better looking side because on the back has the sticker. So I really want this facing the inside of the build. The problem is that means it will be bringing in hot air from the inside. But if it was faced this way, it'd be bringing in fresh air from the front. So I probably should install it like this, but geez, I love how this looks. I really want to install it the other way. I think we'll go with what we're meant to do because, you know, I don't want to hurt any of the components in any way. So let's just install it how we should for the time being. So how is this going to work? Because this is SFX, if we bring that up here, yeah, let's do that. How do I grab this thing? Sometimes we need three hands, you know? There we go. So that's one screw in, and we'll get the second screw in. It should be all good. All right, we're all done. Wait, I actually found this little SFX converting bracket here, so we'll go ahead and install that first, and that will centralize the PSU. Now, we should be able to just install this quite easily because it's centered now. All four holes line up. Once we've got two in, it's going to be much, much easier. So there's the first one. And there's the second one. Now it'll just hold itself in place and it's so much easier to install the others. There we go. Look at that. Just clips in like so, and then two screws on the front to secure it in place. Nice and easy, that's what I like. So for creating the pedestal, the first thing we need to do is cut 2 identical circles. So I've gone ahead and marked out the first circle, then I'll trace this circle to create the second circle. I'm gonna use the jigsaw for that. Let's get into it. So we've completely nailed on this plastic edge here, and I'm a bit worried about stability and if this will withstand the weight of the PC. So I've gone ahead and just created a couple of blocks to help provide a bit of support once I put the top layer on of the wood that we cut out before. Once I get that top layer on, I need to create a second part to have it kind of angle up a little bit, just like Reinhardt's hammer. Now this is obviously going to be a very wide hammer, but we'll see what we can do with this, and it's gonna make for a cool pedestal. Let's get into it. So I've got the top piece cut out and we've rounded the edges now. Now I want to clean it up a little more to make it nice and smooth. So let's go ahead, grab the sander, and we'll get that done. Our next step is creating the side bits that you can see on the side of the pedestal, or Reinhardt's hammer if you want to call it that. Inspired by Reinhardt's hammer, let's call it that. Now the way I'm going to achieve this is by using the laser cutter to cut out a bunch of these shapes, and then I'm going to glue these all together to make them a little thicker so that it's pretty much as thick as what you saw in the image back there. And then we'll glue them onto the side of the pedestal that we've been crafting earlier. So let's get into it. All right, so we've finally finished the pedestal right down here. I don't know how I got my body into that position. Anyway, we're up to the laser cutting now, and this is for the symbol that's on the front of Reinhardt's shield. It's kind of like a lion type symbol. So we'll get to laser cutting some acrylic, a multi-layer design to see if we can come up with that sort of lion-esque design that's on the front of the shield. I think that's what you would call it. Let's get into it. Well, now that all the painting is done, it's finally time to put everything together. Let's go and finish this PC. All right, Amelia, so this is gonna be your very first time playing Overwatch 2. And you're about to play on an Asus 27-inch 1440p display, which is much better than the 25-inch 1080p monitor you've been using. So you should have much better aim because you can actually see the enemies in the distance a lot clearer. So I don't want to hear any more excuses. You're also using the Asus TUF GeForce RTX 4080 graphics card. So this is probably going to be the most amount of frames that you have ever seen. I mean, look at it, it's over 400 FPS at the moment. Also have a secret trick, almost like a cheat for you to try out.
Oh yeah, what is that?
So now in some Overwatch games, people run from around the corner and then you shoot them and you thought you've killed them, but they actually killed you. Yeah. Kind of like lag. So this setting is gonna fix that and it's gonna reduce the system latency by up to like 60%.
Oh wow, okay.
So we're currently over 400 FPS and we're gonna take a small hidden FPS, but we have so much FPS spare in 1440p. So I need you to go to the menu, so press escape, go to options, then I need you to go to, where the fuck is it? I need you to go to video.
Yeah.
And then in video, I need you to go down and find Nvidia Reflex. Okay, you see how it's disabled?
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is I want you to enable it to either on or on plus boost. Let's do on plus boost.
Yeah.
Now, even if your system is really CPU bound, this enables the GPU clocks to stay high, which lowers system latency at the cost of GPU power consumption. So now, with that enabled, that means that when all of these enemies come from around the corner, you're gonna be able to click their head faster than they're gonna be able to click yours, and you should kill them. Although I'm not too sure because it is you playing. What character are you planning on playing?
Moira.
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 Here we are talking about Nvidia Reflex.
Moira main.
And you want to go onto a character that doesn't require any aim, you just hold the button down. So have you played this map before?
No, I haven't. I don't know where I'm going.
Women.
So in the Overwatch Facebook groups, I always see people complaining about that.
They're just jealous.
Oh, wow, okay. Here we go, guys. DPS Moira. First death. Have you got a kill yet?
I don't want to talk about it.
So how much FPS are we getting at the top left? It looks like it is currently at around 270 to 300 FPS at the moment. That's with Nvidia Reflex turned on. Now we did see a little drop in FPS when we turned it on, but that's to be expected. But we have lots of FPS to spare, so you know, I'm super happy with the numbers that we're getting on this. Plus the responsiveness, I think, is well worth the FPS drop. Get her, get her, get her, get her! This is it! Thanks to Asus and Nvidia for supplying the Asus GeForce RTX 4080 TUF gaming graphics card, and a big thank you to Senecom for supplying the parts for the build. If you want to get your own RTX 40 series graphics card, I'll leave a link in the video description. Anyway guys, that'll do it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you subscribe, leave a like and a comment down below, and check out this video right here where we stopped a scam happening on Facebook Marketplace and we fixed that PC right up for one lucky subscriber.